What's going on YouTube? Justin Fuller here, and today I'm standing in front of the 2023 Honda HR-V LX. This is your base model, so if you're thinking you want a small SUV, perhaps a Honda, and you're looking to spend around 25 grand, you might want to check this out. So let's hop on in and see how it competes against the competition. All right, guys, so one of the first things I want to do is talk about what's underneath the hood. So I'm going to pull you on in here, and we are looking at a 2-liter aspirated engine putting out 158 horsepower. Now, this specific model uses a CVT transmission. Now, you can see that you have quite a bit of space in here, so if you wanted to run auxiliary lines for fog lights or anything, maybe you wanted to get over to the battery terminals, which are very easy in case you're running maybe a sub amp, anything like that, they're very easy to access as well. I've got my fuse box here, my air, and then as far as coming across, you can see easy enough to access your oil, windshield wiper fluids, and anything else that you might need. All right, guys, so before we leave the front end of this vehicle, I want to throw up a comparison so you can understand how this 158 horsepower is going to stack up to other vehicles out there in the market, because obviously you want to make sure you're doing a good comparison to understand what's out there. So take a look at that, and then we'll move on to miles per gallon. All right, guys, so let's talk about miles per gallon. This car gets 26 in the city and 32 on the highway coming out of that 2-liter engine, which, by the way, if you didn't know, that 2-liter engine is actually what lived in the previous generation Honda Civic. So this car is getting a little bit of a hodgepodge as far as what it's using, different vehicles and different parts, and it lives on the chassis of the Honda Fit, so just good to know. Now that we've talked about that, let's go back to that 26 in the city and 32 on the highway. I want to throw up a comparison on the screen so you can understand how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. So take a look at that, and we'll keep on rolling. All right, guys, so here I am at the back of the Honda HR-V, and of course I've got the hatch thrown up, and I want to talk to you about cargo space. So let me flip around here and let's talk about this. The first thing I'll point out is the car does come with carpeted floor mats. It's not an additional cost, so know that that's standard in the vehicle. Now, this piece you're going to see has been added at the dealership level for the customer that's picking it up. Now, back here, you've got 24.4 cubic feet of cargo space, so just so you understand what this is. Now, if I flip these seats down, I believe you're looking at 55.1 cubic feet. So just so you can understand what that difference looks like. And then of course, I want you to be able to see how flat this is, right? So I'm gonna slide this back just so you can kind of understand how flat this can really get in case you're ever gonna use it, maybe you're going camping, or you just need to load up something where you really need that flat surface. Now, while I'm talking back here, I do wanna lift this up so you can see underneath. Now, I've got some styrofoam here, and then under that, you're gonna find your jack and all your accessories as far as getting to your spare tire. One, I wanna point out that of course, this car does have a spare tire, and two, that you can use it, right? A lot of cars now have moved to maybe fix a flat with just an air compressor, and that can be really hard, especially if you live in states like Texas where there's a lot of rural land that you're gonna drive through. So just something to note if you're looking at this vehicle. All right, guys, so before we leave the back end, I want to do a cargo space comparison. So you can understand, of course, first, with the seats flipped up, getting that 24.4, what does this car look like compared with other vehicles out there as far as just the back end cargo space? Now, after you've taken a look at that, I want to go to the flip back seats down, which I believe was the 55.1 cubic feet. So I want to throw a comparison up so you can see with these flip down, how does this stack up to some of the other vehicles out there in the market? So after you've taken a look at that, we'll hop into the second row and go over some different features and leg space. All right, guys, so before we hop into that second row, I want to take a quick second to just stop and talk to you about the trim levels and the differences. So this car is the base model, right? The LX trim, and it's $24,895, and that's including the destination and all of that, right? So if you want to jump from the LX up to the Sport, which would be the next trim level up, it's going to run you about a $2 grand difference. But I want you to understand not only how much is it, but what am I gaining if I move up to that? So I'm going to throw a list of all the items that you will gain if you pay that extra $2 grand to get that next trim level up so you can understand. Now, above the Sport is going to be the EXL. Now, from the EXL, I want to say it goes from $26,895 to $29,090, right? So another couple grand there to jump from that Sport to the EXL. So I also want you to understand, hey, if I jumped all the way up to the EXL, what additional features am I going to get on top of those Sport features? So this way you can really understand the difference between the trim levels and how much it would cost you if you wanted to continue to jump up. So after you've taken a look at that, let's hop in that second row. All right, guys, so here I am in the second row. So I want to pull you on in and, of course, show you I'm a 6-footer, and I set the seat to me, and I've still got a good amount of space back here. So before you're deceived by the size of this car exterior-wise, I want you to understand that it's actually fairly spacious in the vehicle itself. You're looking at 37.7 cubic inches of leg space back here. So when it comes to that, you've got a good amount to work with as far as being a 6-footer sitting behind another 6-footer. Now, if you find yourself in that 6'4", 6'5" class, maybe this becomes a little bit trickier, but you could still probably do it and be okay. I just might not take a huge road trip doing this. Now, while we're back here, there's a few things that I, of course, want to point out. First is the materials. This is going to be a cloth interior, and it's a little bit different from previous generations. So you can see I've got one tone here and kind of a second pattern going here. And then actually my third is going to be up top, which is a little bit different. So I've got 3 different patterns that are going here. Now over here on the sides, I'm going to have a leather fill interior as far as where your elbows rub. Same thing here with the center console, just so you have an understanding. And then a plastic material running here. Now I do have speakers back here. I want to see you have a 4-speaker system in this vehicle. So as you climb models, you can get additional speakers. And then I just have storage back here. The one thing I don't like, even though this is a compact car, is that I wish it had AC vents. Of course, in the front, it has that entire spot that we'll get to up there, but I wish you had vents back here. When you live in a state like Texas, it really gets hot and it's really nice to get that air back here, whether it's for your dogs, whether it's for your infants, somebody in a car seat, or just people in general. We want people to be comfortable when they're riding in the vehicle. All right, guys, so before we leave the back, of course, I want to throw up a comparison so you can understand how this car and the leg space in the back stacks up to other vehicles on the market. So I'm going to throw that comparison up so you can understand how the 37.7 inches that you have back here stacks up to those other vehicles out from the market. Now, after you're taking a look at that, we're going to hop in the front seat, go over the different features, and of course, what's leg space look like up there. All right, guys, so here we are in the front row of this Honda HR-V. Now, as far as leg space goes, I have quite a bit up here. I'll show you here in just a second, but it's a good half a foot. You have 41.9 inches of leg space in this vehicle. So when it comes to that being the driver, if you're a larger guy, if you live in that 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", you still are gonna be able to activate and work through this, right? Because I haven't even thrown the seat all the way back. So I got one more click, so I've got quite a bit of space here. Now, as far as the material, it's gonna be that same theme that you saw in the back seat as far as the black moving into kind of a pattern finish, and then kind of that hexagonal, or I should say rectangular shape that you're gonna see, something a little bit more geometric, right? So let me grab you here and kind of walk you through some different features you're gonna see. Now across the door, same thing, you got that leather fill in the plastic here. And then you can see an additional speaker down there in my center console, right? So I've got this that I can pop open. So a little bit different from previous years as far as how they've set this up. You'll see that I've got kind of a flow through here, and they put a USB here, and then you've got a secondary one that you can find on the other side, right? Which I like the idea of this, but I feel like if I plug my phone in, I'm gonna have wires and stuff like dangling all over and around my seatbelt, which I think they kind of failed when it came to that. But they do give you an additional USB, so you can keep one tucked up here with your phone, maybe sitting like that if you need to, just to make space work, right? So ergonomically, your center console is different from previous generations. It's kind of okay, and as far as leg space go, I don't find myself bumping this real hard because I can't get to gas and brake. So it's not one of those ones that really juts out. I just want you to know and be aware of that as well. Before we kind of go across the dash and all the electronics and the media and some of the different safety features, I want to talk to you about how this car stacks up. So I'm going to throw that comparison up so you can see that leg room space in the front. So 41.9 on this car. You can see the list on the screen as far as how this car stacks up to other vehicles on the market. So take a look at that, and then we'll flip it around and we'll kind of go through the dash, some different safety features that the car has, and what the touchscreen looks and works like. All right, guys, so let's work our way kind of across the dash and talk about some of the different things that you're seeing here. So I'm going to start over here on the far left side and kind of talk about buttons. So the first one you're going to see right here is going to be my vehicle stability assist. This is always on and working with your traction control. In the event that you go on a skid, it's designed to help transfer power to whichever wheel is getting better traction. So this is always going to remain on unless you press and hold to turn it off, in which case you'll see a notifier there, and then when I press it, it'll turn it back on, right? So easy enough to understand. Now, when you hop above that, you're gonna see your air vents are a little bit different in past years, right? So this is taken directly from the Honda Civic as far as just a little bit classier look and a little bit more uniform as far as coming across the side. But you'll see you have this nice big long air vent of your passengers, and then one over here for you as well. Now, as far as your window and door controls, I don't think I need to explain these, but window controls, window locks, door locks, and your mirror controls, they are powered. And then down there, you can see that you also have access to the hood. And then if I need to adjust my steering wheel, I can absolutely do so. And it is telescoping, so I can slide in and out and up and down, depending on what my needs are. Now, when I hop up onto the steering wheel, let's talk about some different controls here. So I'm gonna start you on the left here and just talk about this home button. When I press this home button, you're gonna see all these different menus appear right here. Now, I can scroll through all these different menus to get to several different things. Now, I'm not gonna go through all these, but I'll just touch on them briefly. Range and fuel, speed and time, these are all gonna be related to your driving habits as far as fuel consumption and miles per gallon. Now, driver attention monitor is something that's going to actively be checking in case you're using some of these additional safety features. I'll go over here in just a minute, but this is just to make sure you're paying attention. So not a big deal, nothing to worry about there. Seatbelts is a newer feature that you're going to see that's landed in the Civic and some of my other vehicles, and now it's landed in the HR-V, so I can see if someone in the back is sitting there and they aren't wearing their seatbelt. So it's nice that I can get those alerts and know to make sure my little ones, maybe if they don't like to wear their seatbelt, or I have adults back there that I want to make sure I'm taking care of, they're wearing what they should be. Now, maintenance-wise, this will give you, anytime you get an alert, it'll alert you when you get down to, I believe, 15% to let you know if you need an oil change or whatever it may be, and it'll throw you a code A1, A2, B1, B2, so that before you even go into a dealership or wherever, you can check and see online what they're going to recommend to you. So this way you can just kind of stay on top of things, and if you feel like you're getting oversold, you absolutely can check on it. Now, safety support is going to be related to some of the Honda sensing features that comes in the car. Now, when it comes to safety, I want to talk to you about a couple different things. So, as far as the vehicle goes, they've changed a few things here. You now have 8 airbags in the car. So I have 2 front airbags, 2 side airbags, right? I've got 2 knee airbags as well, and then 2 full curtain airbags. So I've got a lot working in this car as far as safety just to begin with. And then it does have ACE body structure, which if you're not familiar with that, it's owned, strictly by Honda, and it means that the car is set up with certain crinkle zone and different ways to where if you get in an accident, the engine is designed to fall down and get pushed underneath, so it doesn't get pushed up in the car to crush any of the passengers, and it's designed to push everything out and around the vehicle. So there's a lot of different things that Honda does that you may not hear about and they may not talk about at the dealership, but you should know that these things exist outside of things like airbags and now some active safety features that I want to flip around and talk to you about. So some of those active safety features that you can affect here, I'm going to jump into this. So when I get in here, the first one you're going to see is road departure mitigation. So if this feature is on, if I start to drive off the shoulder of the road, the minute I go over those lines, it'll start to vibrate the wheel and beep at me to say, hey, wake up, pay attention, maybe I'm getting a little drowsy or whatever the case may be. So it's designed in case you go off the shoulder of the road. Now, one below that is my collision mitigation braking system. So if it's looking like I'm going to rear in another car, the sensor will pick it up, right? So it's going to bounce right off in the front of the car. It'll pick it up and then it'll give me an audible alert, flash in the dash, and it actually can start to apply the brakes to help prevent me from hitting that car in front of me. So a really cool feature that this car has. Now, on the other side of the steering wheel, there's a couple additional features you can use while you're driving as well. The first being my lane keep assist. So if I engage this feature, you're going to see these dotted lines on the steering wheel come on. And what that's going to do is it's actively going to use a camera up here to detect the lines on the road. So as I'm going over 45 miles an hour, I'll caveat to that, and I don't have my windshield wipers on, right? So if these are on, it's going to turn that feature off. But it's going to pick up those lines on the road. So if I drift a little bit to the left or right because I was distracted, I picked up my phone, I spilled my coffee, I turned around to look at my kid, it's not going to let me drift over into the next lane, right? So it'll just pull a little bit and keep me centered. So if you've ever been in a car that pulls a little bit to the left or the right, that's kind of what it feels like. If it was an emergency and I needed to overpower it, I absolutely could. So you don't have to worry about that, but I just want you to understand what the feature is. Now, the last one is going to be related to your cruise control, and it's adaptive cruise control. So when I get up to my speed, right, I could set my speed, and it would show me that I've set my speed, and then I can select the distance it'll keep between me and cars in front of me. In doing so, I would be using this button right here, and as I use it, it'll create that distance for me, right? So kind of nice that you can do that. So when I press this button, you're gonna see boxes appear here, right? And as I press it, the more boxes there are, the more space it'll keep between me and whatever car might be in front of me. And what's that mean is if I set my speed to 65, the guy in front of me slows down to 55, it'll slow down and keep that distance, and then when I get off from behind him, it'll take me back up to my speed. Now, if I just want classic cruise, press and hold this button, it'll even say cruise mode selected, and now I'm just using a classic cruise control where I can set the speed, cancel, resume, and then I can do, my classics, hey, let me raise the speed up a little bit or lower the speed a little bit, right? So different ways that I can use this, whether I want to use more of a classic feel or I want to use that adaptive cruise control. So all these different safety features plus airbags plus ACE body structure, all these different things they're doing to help protect everyone in the vehicle. And then you have things like hill start assist and all these different features, related to that to help keep you safe. Parking brakes, brake hold. If you're not familiar with brake hold, what that is if I have my seatbelt on. So let me throw my seatbelt on real quick. I'll explain exactly how this works. So let me turn the emergency brake off here. So if I turn brake hold on, what I can do is I can be in drive and I can press brake hold. When I press it, it'll come on. And when it's holding, you'll see this secondary light there. I can now let my foot off the gas and the brake, right? So I don't have my foot on either one and the car is in drive, right? So I'm not moving. When I tap the gas, it'll release that hold, and then I can move forward. So if I'm in like a drive-through line, when I come to a complete stop, the hold will come back on, it's let me know, and now I can release my foot. So this is good for like stop and go traffic, or if I'm in like a drive-through line at like a bank or a gas station or whatever it may be. So all these different features that Honda's added to this vehicle to really make sure they're taking care of you. All right, guys, so here we are on the touchscreen, and I just want to walk you through some basic functions and features. Now, across the bottom here, you can see that I have some different buttons. So whether I want to jump over to a menu, get to any of my settings, I can absolutely do that. And then I could scroll through with all these different things that you're seeing right here, right? So easy enough to understand as far as what I'm accessing. Know that it is a touchscreen, so I can do that as well. Now, as far as connecting up, once I've connected up my phone to the USB, this is where I'm gonna access Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. As far as jumping over to media, my different media options, currently I'm using Android Auto, but if I had USB, Bluetooth, whatever it may be, it would allow me to jump and toggle between those different options, right? Easy enough to understand. If I want to jump over to the radio, you know how that works, and then jumping over the phone once I've connected up my phone via Bluetooth, and then I can access my recent calls, favorite contacts, all of those different things. Now, I can do a lot of this from Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, so I recommend just using that. It's easy enough, but understand it, you do have to plug in. This is not a wireless setup for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Now, when you're on here, know that you have access to all these different things. So if you're not familiar with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, it's gonna give you access to several of the apps that live in either the App Store or the Google Play Store that you can use on the screen, right? So whether it be Google Maps, whether it be, if I wanna scroll down to Waze, whether you want to use Apple Maps, whatever it may be, know that you can take advantage of it. I can hop over to my Messenger, I can get into Teams, I can get into my Google Voice. So several different apps, they're forever changing and updating. So know that you can always check that online to see what's available in case you're curious if an app will work. Now, simply when you plug in your phone, it's going to pull across the ones right now that are currently connected and offer that. So just be aware, it's pretty easy and simple to understand. Now, know that you can also customize this. So I have a custom background right here, and up here at the top, I've done some different things here. So as far as like setting up Google Maps to where the minute I touch this, it'll pull up directions off of Google Maps and start directing me to my home to where I don't have to get into Google Maps and then select my home and do that every time. Very easy to set up. If you don't know how to do that, I actually have a tips and tricks video on this vehicle talking about all these different things you could do and a few other things that'll actually throw up at the top of the screen. So, and it'll be at the end of this video as well, in case you want to know how to make shortcuts, right? How do I make a shortcut to call a person? How do I rearrange all these apps and pick the order of them? How do I set those custom backgrounds and all these different things that you can do? So just so you have a little bit of info on exactly how Apple CarPlay and Android works. And if you want tips and tricks, not only on that, but on the car itself, know that I've got a video for that. So the screen is great here. You can see that it's nice and flat and sitting upright, so it eliminates a lot of the glare that you're gonna run into, makes it very visible and easy to focus on the road and then down back, right? So when I'm going between these two, very easy. I'm not having to look down, I'm not having to play with buttons and worry, because a lot of times the biggest complaint in previous years was, hey, I need a few buttons and I need a volume knob. All right, guys, so that's a quick and pretty fast rundown as far as what the Honda HR-V LX has to offer. Before I kind of review and go back through all those things, if you're not super familiar with Hondas, I just want to let you know a little bit about things like warranties. So this car gets a 3-year, 36,000 mile, what everybody would call the bumper-to-bumper warranty, right? Or a standard warranty that covers everything but like wear and tear items, things like batteries and light bulbs and tires. You also get a 5-year or 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. So that's going to cover the main components of your engine and transmission. So if you're not familiar with Hondas, I just want you to understand how that works. Now, if you're looking at a hybrid model, maybe you're comparing it to a CR-V hybrid, something like that, know that there's additional warranties that come along with hybrid batteries and different things. However, they don't offer this vehicle in a hybrid in the US as of right now. Now, to revisit the car, let's talk about everything that we went over. So up at the front of the car, we talked about how this car got 158 horsepower out of that 2-liter engine. So I want to throw that comparison back up on the screen so you can understand how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. Now, while we're talking about, horsepower, I want to talk about the other side of that, miles per gallon. This car gets 26 in the city and 32 on the highway. So I want you to see that comparison up on the screen so you can understand how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. Now, after that, let's move into this front row. So I'm sitting up here with a 4-speaker system, and know that you've got different setups depending on which level you climb, and we went over those different trim levels that you can always revisit. So while I'm talking about that, I'm going to show you that again so you can see, hey, if I want to jump up to Sport, how much extra money is it going to cost me, and what is that list of items that I'm going to get if I jump up. And then from the Sport, if I jump up to that EXL, the very top end model, how much additional money is it going to cost me on top of the Sport, and what extra items am I going to get, so you can understand those trim level differences. Now, in the front row, I believe you've got 41.9 inches of leg space up here. So I'm going to throw that comparison up so you can see how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market as far as leg space for a 6-footer, a bigger guy, things of that nature. I'm 250, 6 foot, and I fit in this car just fine. When you hop into that second row, I want to say it was 37.7 as far as inches of leg space. So I'll throw that comparison up on the screen so you can understand how this car stacks up as far as the second row goes. Me sitting behind myself, I had no issues. I could easily take a long road trip and be perfectly comfortable. Now, it is set up for 3 back there. However, let's be honest, you're not going to put 3 adults in the back of this car. It just wouldn't make sense unless I was going right around the corner. Maybe 2 adults and a kid, but even then, it's going to be a little tight because this car is smaller. If you're thinking about that, I'd say let's jump up to a CR-V, and even then, I don't know. So understand the spacing related to that. Now, when you get to the cargo space, I had two different options that we went over. I had one with the seats flipped up, and that was, I believe, 24.4 cubic feet of cargo space. So I want you to see that comparison as far as how it stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. And then when you flip those seats down, I believe it was 55.1 cubic feet of storage space, and it's actually pretty flat, right? So if camping goes awry, you want to put something back there like a mirror or something that really needs a flat surface, know that you can absolutely do it. So I want that comparison up on the screen so you can see how this car stacks up to other vehicles as far as full cargo space. Now, with that, I want to talk to you about a couple differences from the previous generation to the newest generation. They've changed the body style a little bit, so on the exterior of the car, the back doors now have just regular door handles. It's actually really kind of nice. If you look at the previous generation, they're up a little bit higher, so if you had little ones and they were trying to get in the car themselves, sometimes they can't reach. What I like about this car is it sits low enough to the ground that if you are older or if you have little ones, they can climb in and out of the car pretty unilaterally, right? You're not having to climb up or down into the vehicle, so it's kind of nice. The CR-V sits a little bit higher, so I like it for that if you're, got bad knees or things like that, and you want something very like just, hey, I just want to laterally slide across, but this one isn't bad. You're not climbing down into a hole. So as far as that goes, I really like some of the changes they've made as far as the exterior of the car, as far as not just looks, other than the front end. Front is a little wonky looking to me as far as the grille. You can look at the new and the previous generation, kind of get a feel for yourself. The back end's pretty much the same, other than door handles and then wheel, pattern changes. Now, inside the car, I definitely like the patterns that they've done on the seats more. It's definitely a better look. The center console, I love that you have 3 USBs up here now, but they're kind of unusable, right? I could have it, but then I got wires running all over me or over the shifter and around my seatbelt, and I just don't like that. I want to keep that space clean and keep kind of everything pushed up and away from me. That's just me. Maybe that doesn't matter to you, or maybe you got a really short USB that you want to use and you'll be just fine. Outside of that, the touchscreen in the car, they have made some drastic changes. Used to be that you'd get a base model and it wasn't a touchscreen, it was like a smaller LCD screen, and it was super basic. Now they're giving you Apple CarPlay, they're giving you Android Auto, they're giving you the ability to access Google Maps and different things so that you can access these things in the car, and the car is coming with all the additional safety features as well. In previous generations, you wouldn't have necessarily gotten all the Honda sensing features maybe in a base model. You would have had to go up to the Sport, right? So they were doing some different things. Now, related to that, I do just want to remind you, if you're looking at previous generations, there was an LX, a Sport, an EX, and an EXL. They've gotten rid of that EX now, so it's LX, Sport, and EXL. So just understand there's some changes there. So if you're comparing this to a year or two old, know that there's going to be some differences and changes that you should be aware of. Other than that, though, would I recommend this car to a friend, a family member? Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. It gets good gas mileage. It has a previous generation Honda Civic engine, which I drove that Civic for years. It does great. It's on the Fit chassis, which I really do like. It's spacious in the side, but it's still small enough that I can park it downtown. If I need to get a parking garage and it's a tight spot, I can do it. So this car just makes sense for a lot of different people, and it's good on gas mileage and, of course, safety. Outside of that, a couple favors to ask you. One, I hope you press the like button because you like the way I present this content. Hopefully you like me, and it just makes my heart feel good when I see those likes. Secondarily, leave a comment, man. If you feel like I missed something or you have a question about the car or there's something that you wish we'd go over, I would love to know about it so I can maybe touch on it on the next video. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel so the next time I come out with a video like this or a tips and tricks video, or they give me something new that they want me to try out, right? A product in the car like, hey, how do I make Apple CarPlay wireless in the car, which I've done videos on. So I have that in some of my other videos if you want to check it out. So just different things like that. And then lastly, I hope that you'll share this video, right? If you got some friends in a forum or you got some friends checking this car out, I hope you'll share it to them and let you know, hey man, here's a good review. It compares it to other vehicles. I like the way the guy presents it. He talks fast enough to keep this moving and get you a lot of information quickly. Other than that, appreciate you tuning in. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all the different things, and later, guys!